All right. I would like to go to my next guest. This is a fast turnaround for him, so I am greatly appreciative of him joining me. We're joined with Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He is former distinguished visiting professor at government, at the public policy at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. He is also taught for 6 years at the University Honors Program at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., my previous location that I lived. He is also probably best known as retired United States Army Colonel and former Chief of Staff for the United States Secretary of State, Colin Powell. Colonel Wilkerson, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for joining me so fast in a turnaround. I usually try to give several weeks, but considering what's taking place, I do appreciate you joining me.
Good to be with you.
So I've mentioned to you, I was very skeptical of these negotiations.
Where's Dennis?
Yeah. Give me your overall take. Isn't
Dennis Fritz supposed to be on with us?
Oh, I didn't think he was joining me. I thought he said he was busy. Did I get this wrong?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. I thought he was coming on too. I was looking.
Wait, maybe I got it wrong. Let me check. I am a flawed human being, so I could have totally got this wrong.
You're probably right. I just didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see. Let's see. I thought he said he was. See, I didn't see a response. Oh wait. Yeah, he said he was traveling to Atlanta with his daughter. He returns tonight. I can't do it at 9 a.m.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I guess I missed.
No, it's perfectly okay. I'm not going to keep you long, though. I just wanted to get your take on what is taking place. Try to give us some context for this. Because, for one, I didn't think the negotiations were real. I thought Donald Trump kept escalating what he wanted in regards to the negotiations. And this comes within the context of knocking off Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, etc., with Iran, the last man standing. Help us try to explain what we're seeing here, because this clearly is not in the best interest of the U.S., and this obviously has capacity to drag larger powers into the war. Maybe not immediately, but let's be very honest. Russia, this is the way of empire trying to maintain itself. They thought they could do it by taking down Russia using Ukraine. Okay, that didn't work. And so they thought Iran is the weak link, and they thought they had the opportunity with Trump being surrounded by neocons. But this could drag in other countries, considering China and Russia on some level, if not dependent upon. It helps deeply to have a relationship with Iran and have it being where it is under its own independence. Give me your thoughts on this.
Well, your first question was the relevant one, I think, and that is, was Trump serious about negotiations? Yes, of course he was. He was serious at using negotiations as a ploy to lull Tehran into a feeling that they were not going to be attacked imminently, that negotiations still had a chance to succeed. Indeed, they were still scheduled. And so they came off their guard a bit, and Trump achieved tactical surprise for Bibi Netanyahu and for America too, because Bibi couldn't have done what he did without us in a most dastardly way. I compare it to Yamamoto and his attack in 1941 on Pearl Harbor, and I compare it to Saddam Hussein and his attack on Kuwait later. These are tyrant actions. These are the actions of autocrats, dictators, or reasonable facsimiles thereof. They are not the actions of a state, let alone the leading state, supposedly, but we have been majorly dethroned now, in terms of the law of warfare, international law in general, humanitarian law. You name the kind of law that we have spent years, since 1945, arguably, trying to fashion in the world as a part of the rules-based order that we love so much. And we have utterly destroyed them, including their prominent institution, which we really had the biggest hand in starting, the United Nations. We have destroyed all of them. And Donald Trump did it in one fell swoop.
Colonel, you were absolutely right. I went back and looked at that email directly, and it did say he would have to leave at a certain time. I misunderstood and I misread it. I sent him the link for it, so he may join us ultimately.
Okay, I was just worried he might be out there.
No, he may, yeah, he may. That was my mistake. I just misread the email. But I sent him the link just in case he can join. Ultimately, even if he joins a little bit late.
I'd love to see his smiling face.
He's an awesome guest. He's a fantastic guest, and thank you for giving me a heads up on his existence. I didn't even know.
We used to see each other all the time, and now in the age of Zoom, we don't.
Well, he knows his stuff. He is a fantastic guest. The audience loves him, and I always love to talk to him. And I would have loved to have both of you together. That's why I sent the link to both. That's why I sent it to both. Hopefully, he can join, even if it's just for a little while. The last time you and I spoke, you said that if the U.S. intervenes into a war with Iran, we will be militarily defeated. Now, it seems that Israel, one of two things is true. Either they believe that they could win this. They've killed so many women and kids that they just was high off of the smoke from, burning babies, that they decided, hey, now we can do this. We're goosed up. Let's do it. We've taken out Syria. We've taken out Hezbollah. We've taken out all these other people. Now we can go after the head of the snake. And, when Ben Gvir was confronted, he said, we had no idea that Iran had that level of power backing them, meaning they were just fundamentally surprised. He's like, we had no idea they had that level of arsenal, that they could decimate and hit us in this way, that we can defend ourselves.
They've been lying by Bibi. They've been lying.
Is that what it is?
After year by Bibi, because he has this incredible control. You wouldn't believe the control he has over what the Israeli portion, and by extension, the Palestinian Arab portion of Israel's citizens, 14 million or so, 7 and 7, he has incredible control over what they know. They only know what Bibi tells them, and that goes for the Knesset and other members of his cabinet as well. He has a lock on Mossad, a lock on Shin Bet. The Israeli people do not ever know the whole truth. It comes from Bibi's mouth and Bibi's mouth alone. The same thing Donald Trump is striving for in this country, but so far he has been singularly unsuccessful in accomplishing that. And that worries me, because this is a man who takes action when things don't go his way, drastic action.
So that leads another question. What does it mean when the U.S. gets involved? Because the U.S. will get involved. I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference between somebody telling Trump, hey, just give it to the Israelis, they can do it on their own, and then it falling flat. And the reason why I say that is...
Yeah, they can't. Bibi has already communicated to Donald Trump that he can't do it alone, that he bit off more than he could chew.
Right. It's that part, though. But in the very beginning, Trump was crowing as if this is a done deal. The Iranians have been pacified. And then within a day or so, you saw him screaming, crying to Donald Trump for assistance.
And Trump knew this in terms of Iran's capacity to respond. He just didn't want to believe his intelligence community, or he didn't listen to it, or both.
But why? I mean, is it just the people around him? Is it just he is not the man that many of MAGA believes that he is? Like, what's?
I think we're looking at the possibility of one of his first cabinet level appointments, departing, maybe not under her own wishes. I don't think she has the moral courage to continue to stand up to him, but she's contradicted him. Tulsi Gabbard has contradicted him. She told the Congress 3 years was the intelligence community's combined, all 17 entities, combined view on Iran's having a nuclear weapon, which I think is probably pretty accurate, because I did a lot of work with the AQCon network in the time I was at State Department, and a little bit when I was in the military. And as we look, you wouldn't believe the number of countries, Jamal, that wanted a nuclear weapon. It's never been revealed to the American people in any significant way how many there were. And AQ Khan, in particular, the father of the Islamic bomb, was interested in getting those nuclear weapons to Islamic countries, or at least countries that are majority Muslim, including a couple that would shock you if you knew that they were looking for a bomb. We managed to talk all those countries out of it. With one or two exceptions, we managed to talk them all out of it. That was a strenuous operation on our part. The British were helping us. But we felt it was essential because that was a massive proliferation of nuclear weapons were it to happen. So one of the things I learned in that massive process interagency working groups with all manner of experts in them, was that it's not just enriching uranium or making a plutonium metal nuclear capable piece of plutonium. It's all the things you have to do once you do the enrichment or you get the plutonium to match it with a warhead, to ensure that warhead can withstand reentry temperatures, can withstand the other things that impact it when it hits this incredible atmospheric problem that ballistic missiles have, the missile itself and the mating of the warhead to the missile, and all manner of other tech. And you got to test somewhere. North Koreans proved that. They did a test we didn't even detect because it was so far underground. And they taught in this process. We watched the North Koreans teach the Iranians how to operate underground, how to do. So all that to say that Tulsi was probably right. The intelligence community was probably right. It would probably take 2 to 3 years before, even if they enriched to 90% or whatever, to match all of that with a usable, reliable nuclear weapon. She's probably right. Well, why did Netanyahu speed that up? Just examine Netanyahu's record. He has been saying since 1992, actually earlier, but 92 in a governmental position, that Iran would have a bomb initially within 2 to 3 years. Then it was 2 years. Then it was 1 year. Then it was a few days away. And now, of course, it's there. Oh, they're going to have a bomb. They're going to have a bomb. It's nonsense. He's also the one, of course, who said Saddam Hussein being taken down by the United States would clear the whole region. Everything would be copacetic after that. Wonderful after that. Well, those of us who've been watching him for years knew that, that's not true. It's going to be a very difficult war. We probably won't win it. And he's still going to insist on Iran. Precisely what he's doing. All to say that this is not a surprise. It's only a surprise to ignorant people. And I don't mean that derisively. I mean, they just don't know. Like in Israel, Israelis don't know because Netanyahu has such a tight hold on information. In our country, it's a little bit different. We have a media that is absolutely irresponsible. And they don't dig into things. They don't try to find out the truth. They just take Israel's word for it. Particularly in the case of Israel, do they not tell the truth? And back to your original question, which I don't want to let slip by without answering. When I said we would lose fundamentally and be sucked into a disaster that might be the end of empire, I meant if we really go to war. And what I mean by that is bombs are not even U.S. bombs, not even B-2 delivered bunker busters are going to get Iran's nuclear program. Period. They're not. So the only way you assure yourself of your ultimate goal,
ground troops,
you invade. Yes. If we invade, we're toast. You think Iran was or Iraq was bad or Afghanistan was bad? Think 20 years and $20 trillion, $1 trillion a year, and hundreds of thousands of casualties. The American people are never going to support that, or at least I hope they're not. A draft conscription in order to fill the ranks of a very depleted army. Those kids will go to Mexico. They'll go to Canada. I mean, we've done polling. We've done testing. These 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they don't want anything to do with the empire's wars. Right. So that's what I meant by we'll lose. We may bomb them to Jesus and then say we've won, but we haven't. We haven't. You cannot bomb the software knowledge of nuclear weapons out of everyone's head. You simply can't, which is the challenge we faced in disassembling the AQCon network, a challenge we still face, by the way. There's still a couple of countries out there who have that knowledge. And at any moment, you could find out that a country you never thought would have a nuclear weapon has suddenly got a nuclear weapon. Could happen on the sly, actually. Where it, like it did in North Korea, where we didn't even know they tested. We had all our sophisticated stuff up. The seismic center in Geneva had all of its sophisticated stuff up. We didn't know they tested. It took a second test that we sniffed a little bit better than the first one for us to confirm in our own minds that North Korea not only had a nuclear weapon, they tested it not once, but twice.
Wow.
It's a dangerous world we're creating. Very dangerous.
Are you concerned about other countries being pulled in I mean,
Yeah.
because
This is the
yeah,
example, Jamal. This is the example. Look, we're not messing with North Korea in any significant way. Why? That's
they have
what they
nukes.
that's what they asked themselves. Need a nuke. Need a nuclear weapon to keep the empire from, smashing you at its own will anytime it wants to.
No, I mean, other countries getting pulled into the conflict. Like, for example,
Oh, you mean
the
Iran?
way, yeah, because I don't get the sense. I mean, part of the reason that the U.S. is going after, for one, this was never about nukes, right? At least I don't believe for a moment this was ever about nukes. This was about mastering
About
and
regime.
controlling.
It's about
Yeah, the
regime.
reason
Yeah.
about regime change, right?
Yeah.
On the other front of that, there is a dual benefit to the U.S., who considers its power eroding in the world with
Yes.
China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, et cetera, these BRICS nations and everything else. And if you can undercut China or undercut Russia, or for that matter, get rid of Iran, then you've eviscerated the BRICS, or the center of your opposition right off the bat. China loses the ability of getting cheap oil from, let's say, Iran. China loses an ally that is in the Middle East. Russia loses an ally in the Middle East, meaning it seems to be about more than just going after Iran directly. There seems to be multiple reasons or rationales for it. Those other countries have to know that, which means they would be under pressure to not let Iran fall, even if they don't. Like, for example, China's been sending cargo ships left and right for the last several days, effectively boosting and backing up Iran. I would imagine that Russia at some point is going to start doing the same, even though they haven't necessarily piped up yet. Are you concerned? Yeah, please.
All that thought, and let me tell you something that's speculative right now, but I can see it being reality. Putin is destroying Ukraine right now.
Yes,
just
he is.
ripping it from one end to the other. I expect any moment to hear that Zelensky's scalp is on a telephone pole outside Kyiv. Maybe this duplicity that Donald Trump showed glaringly with Iran, the sneak attack, if you will, on Iran, has been coordinated with Putin. And Trump has given Putin a free hand in Ukraine for Putin in exchange giving him a more or less free hand in Iran and, of course, Israel. And let me tell you, Israel's tentacles go into Moscow deeply. They're money tentacles. And so I can believe that an arrangement like that might have been made. However, here's what I find very difficult to believe, that Putin would swallow Trump's promise to leave him alone in Ukraine.
Right there. It's that part. That's what I don't do. That's why I don't buy that.
He's been burned too many times by Biden
Yeah.
and Trump. I mean, but it makes sense, even if he thinks he might be burned, because he can't be burned badly. He's already won dramatically. So he might think keeping Israel on that financial payroll, as it were, and the payroll goes both ways to the oligarchs in both countries, is worth letting the United States have its way with Iran while he protests majorly.
That feels so incompetent to me, if that's true. Like, the reason why I say that is after the Minsk agreements went into, like, meaning, what is it of Donald Trump that these people trust? Like, he goes, yeah,
got to have something else up their sleeve, and I'm sure Putin does. And it may be simply that, well, I'm just going to write Southwest Asia off for the time being. I've lost Syria. I've lost maybe Iran. I've lost a lot of weight that I had in that region of the world. But am I really that concerned about it? Now, China has a different writ, because that was their replacement base road initiative avenue, if you will, in addition to the one they're building up the Persian Gulf, to the one they lost with Ukraine. Because Ukraine was supposed to be the entrepot into which the rail line China was about to complete into Central Europe would debauch its goods and its produce in the heart of Europe. Cutting, by the way, the fact they have to ship either through the Suez or around the Horn, cutting their costs by about a third. So it would have made their products even more competitive than they already were, because it would be a 16-hour train ride instead of a 2-day ship. And that stopped because of this Ukraine war. Now, Putin could reopen that at any time for the Chinese, but does he want to? Does he want to have that kind of commerce, depending? Maybe he gets great transshipment fees or something like that. I don't know. But this is a very different world that's developing right now. And you've got 3 or 4 players in it that you have to watch really carefully. One of them is Putin. Another is Modi. Another is Trump. And that's a very difficult player to watch because he's an idiot. But we forget that behind Trump are about 100 billionaires, 30% of whom are Israeli American citizens. So this is the deep state. The deep state is behind Trump. And if Trump ever does anything that the deep state does not ultimately direct or want, Trump will be gone in a heartbeat, I guarantee you. So this is a difficult world to assess right now in terms of where power is really going and what's happening with regard to it. And it's all in a cocked hat right now because we're playing with nuclear weapons. We are playing with nuclear weapons.
I would add one thing. Russia apparently did offer a security agreement to Iran that Iran didn't accept.
They signed an agreement, as I understand it. It's not.
They did sign.
Yeah, it's not one like NATO. I mean, it's not
exactly. And it's not like going with the North Koreans.
Yeah.
But they offered one similar to the North Koreans. But Iran themselves said that they didn't want. I can read it. They pointed out that they wanted to be an independent actor. They didn't necessarily want to sign on to like a union, like with Belarus and Russia. They wanted their own independence.
My understanding, and this comes from intelligence contacts, is there's a tacit understanding between Tehran and Moscow that the surface was not the reality. The reality was a handshake underneath the surface that said, essentially, if you are attacked unprovoked, we will support you. Now, support is not defined. What does that mean?
Yeah,
they're already supporting them. There's a second squadron, I think, of their latest fighter planes that may have been hit by Israel. I haven't been able to find out. One squadron had already completed new equipment training and was ready to fly. This second squadron was being trained at the time, had just started training. So those are really first-class fighters. And that was a substantial arrangement with Iran made by Moscow. I don't know where that is now. They may cut their losses now because the devastation has been fairly extensive. On the other hand, they have to consider the fact that the devastation in Israel has been fairly extensive, is unheard of in Israel's history, and is probably going to, he shut it down. You can't get out of Israel now by land. He doesn't want people leaving because he knows if he opens it up, he'll lose 1 million people overnight if the airplanes can stand it. So it's a very tenuous situation right now on both sides. And I think that's why I'm hearing Netanyahu has begged Trump to come in.
Wow. Is he going in?
I think there's every sign he is. Every sign. We're moving all manner of. We didn't just move 30 or so aerial tankers, KC-135s and such. We're moving major combat power. This is another thing. This is not a threat to the United States of America in any way, fashion, or form. This is not a threat to the United States. And yet, we are taking our eye off people who are genuine threats to the United States. And we're moving combat power and expending combat power at a rate that's just unparalleled with Israel, too. We couldn't handle China if we tried. We couldn't even handle a defensive war against China. We're so buried now in what Trump's doing with regard to Iran and Israel.
So play this out for me, and this can be the last question. If you're sitting in the Department of Defense, the president comes down and says, hey, we're going to defend Israel to the hilt. They're getting the stuffing kicked out of it. They have all of these buildings blown up, all of these institutions. Bibi is screaming for assistance, screaming for help. And you need to come up with some kind of, I suppose, plan to go after Iran, knowing full well, though, that Iran has allies. They're not independent actors. How do you deal with that? I mean, because that's ultimately what the Pentagon or the Department of Defense is going to be confronted with.
Yes, and I've got some insight into that. A couple of colonels may lose their job. The attitude of those who have a brain in the Pentagon, and admittedly, that's a rare group now because he and Hegseth have began to get rid of those who have a brain. Having a brain means objecting to stupid orders from the commander in chief and from Hegseth. He's actually holding Christian prayer meetings in the Pentagon now. And
Hegseth?
And there's an ultra.
What?
There's a reason for this. He wants to identify all those people who are, God willing, I'll be with you. Like Huckabee, like the ambassador to Israel, who came back with a God bless chant for Trump. You are the man. You need to do what God is telling you to do. Well, this is Hegseth's meth. I don't believe for a minute that Hegseth believes all of it. But he's ferreting out those who will be complicit and complacent when he does things that are not necessarily the right things to do, like declare the Insurrection Act and go out with martial law across the country. And he's getting rid of the other people. So anyway, back to your question. They tell me that they have told their bosses, the flag officers, the generals and admirals in the Pentagon, that this is such a major detraction from what they consider to be the real threats to the United States, real, genuine threats, that they recommend wholeheartedly and powerfully against it. That apparently has had no traction with Hegseth and I don't even know that it's made its way to the president. Now, I don't think that would stop him anyway, but it would at least put the sane people in the Pentagon on record.
Yeah. Okay. I guess my thing is okay, fair enough. I guess, but the question is, even if telling the president, hey, we don't think this is a good idea, and the president comes back down, no, this is what we're doing. I don't care if you think this is a good idea.
Well, that's essentially what he did to Tulsi. You see that? March.
Yeah.
Just 3 months ago, she's telling the Congress of the United States in a sworn-in hearing, she's telling them it is the intelligence community's view, which I'm transmitting to you, that Iran is 3 years away from a nuclear weapon. Trump was confronted with that testimony by CNN, I think, at his airplane the day after, not after the testimony, but 2 days ago, I think. And he said, I don't care what she thinks. So Ali Vaez said a priceless remark, I think on CNN, he was being interviewed, and he said, so we went to one war because we fixed the intelligence, Iraq. Now we're going to one because we're ignoring the intelligence.
He's absolutely right.
Absolutely right. We don't give a damn about intelligence.
So your expectation is just a bombing campaign? Or do you expect troops on the ground?
I think it'll start out just bombing, but they're going to find out if they're truthful. Now they might just bomb and say, okay, because they are 3 years away. What I think the bombing will do is make them 3 weeks away once they reconstitute, and they will reconstitute. But that might be a year down the road that they are able to reconstitute, and then 3 weeks behind they're going to 24 hours, not 8-hour shifts, 24-hour shifts, deep underground. They could have a bomb pretty quickly. That won't bother Trump because he'll have already taken over the United States by then, been assassinated, died of a heart attack, or been Big Macs, or replaced by the oligarchs behind him. So, this is all kind of, it's all based on the time frame you're looking at. I don't think we'll invade because I think the military will be absolutely adamant with Trump that half of them will walk out of the building if he invades and puts ground troops in Iran, because that's a disaster.
I mean, but come on. So the military will walk out if the president tries to put ground troops, but will be okay with a bombing raid against a country that they know is not producing a nuke.
But also, it's the lesser of two evils, with the greater evil being so huge that they would take that compromise, I think. And besides, as my ground pounder friends would say, it's the Air Force. Let them drop their damn bombs.
Colonel Wilkerson, thank you for this. I've just sent Commander Master Sergeant, or I think he's
Just call him
calling
Chief. Chief.
Chief. Yeah, Chief, as I call him Chief. I just sent him an email apologizing to him. I completely misread that initial email. He said he could leave by 10, and I read it as he wasn't able to do it. I will bring him back on the show as an apology. I mean, I sent an apology, but I want him back on the show in general. Thank you for this. This is military analysis. I mean, it's a military campaign that effectively is about to take place. So I felt you and Chief were the two to have the conversation.
Yeah,
So thank you for this.
I would have loved to hear what Dennis has to say because I've had a chance to talk to him in the last 48 hours or so.
Yeah, I will bring him back on. I am going to bring him back on as soon as I can get him. I totally just misread that email. But thank you for this. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, he is former distinguished visiting professor of government and public policy at the University of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. He also taught for 6 years at the University Honors Program at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. He is also, and probably best known as retired United States Army Colonel and former Chief of Staff for United States Secretary of State Colin Powell. You have a fantastic day. All right. Be safe.
You too, Jamal.